So I'm not particularly attached to any one type of lunge or squat or way of training the legs. What I do like to factor in is this circularity, this awareness of the space around us that we can access. So instead of fixating on one direction or one vector, we look at the available ranges to train the lower body. And we think of this in terms of balance point or base of support, which is my left foot in this case, center of mass being here. And then we think in terms of a support point, which can become the base of support or a reaching point. So let's say I'm reaching with this point, which is my right foot. I can lower down and level change, and that can become some kind of exercise. I can then add the counterbalance and go even deeper, access more range, and if I'm still hovering, that hover becomes a limitation, so I can then remove that limitation, explore even more range, even more options to come closer to the ground. I could work on this level and also explore lifting the leg and hovering. I could also explore coming up here and working at this level with my top leg. So let's say we have high, mid, and low levels. There's also kneeling, sitting, and lying on the floor, but we're going to focus on the standing ones today. I can apply that to my support leg, so high, mid, low levels, or sitting. But I can also apply that to my standing leg, so low, mid, or high, and work with all of these ranges on this leg. So you've got different options here by thinking of levels, by thinking of support point versus reaching point, and then introducing at any point in any type of reach a second base. And now with this second base, I have more options. I can shift from front towards back foot at any level of precision. So 50-50, 70-30, 95-5, where my back toe is just tickling the grass. And then the same thing back here, exploring this. Back leg is now dominant. Different torso shapes, that's another option you have. The options are endless, we don't have to go there just yet. But the point is, you can address all of this from this central point within the idea of a periphery and a center, okay? This is my available space, and I am always in the center reaching outward, and I explore going out and coming back. So here, here, coming across is another example of the same thing, but I'm just shifting center points, and then I'm in a new circle of reach. So the game here is to make sure that all of these ranges of rotation are accessible to you. And when I view it this way, it helps me to view my body in a different light as a rotating, twisting, coiling tool. So as soon as I face this way, I've now coiled into my left hip in internal rotation. The options are going to feel different than if I'm facing this way. So there's all these variables, but they will be addressed organically just by playing the game of moving in the circle and exploring what's there for you. Any of these can be turned into a classical exercise and approached with progressive overload. So let's say I want to go behind. I reach as far as I can. With the constraint of staying upright, that's going to look different. With the hinge, that'll look different. With the levels. So you choose, what am I going to do, or am I just going to reach? Am I just going to make it really simple, or am I going to add constraints to focus on my pushing muscles, let's say, by staying upright and working in mid? Anyway, I'm going to reach back, touch down that toe. Very lightly now it's a point of support, and I can explore all of this. Sinking, rising, coiling and uncoiling, weight shifts. Where are my limitations? Let's say I find something here that feels interesting. I can stay there and work with it. And I can go like 3 by 10, 3 sets of 10 reps. I can explore going lower and deeper into this, mid to low levels. I can explore touching the knee down and lifting the foot, turning it into some kind of shrimp squat, single leg squat. I can explore with this foot behind the body in the same rough orientation, the idea of going all the way down, lifting my heel, touching the knee, touching my head to the floor. There is so much available here. And when I find a weakness, or when I find an area of interest, or just something that I enjoy, I can pause with that constraint, load it, put it in the program for 4 weeks. After that 4 weeks, I just work with a slightly different vector, or I choose a different constraint. Okay, so let's say I've done 4 weeks of something in my program like this, touching the knee, all right? Or even this, or this. I can then do 4 weeks of something like this, or this, very twisty, accessing completely different tissues. And I just come back to my center. I just explore my options. If you play enough, working with picking things up, placing them down like keys or socks, can I grab them with my feet? Can I balance? Can I play catch? If you explore this enough with something like a clock face squat, where you go deep, where you go around at different levels, you will find things where you get unbalanced. You'll find areas, like this could be one, for example, where your glutes super tight, you've got nothing. You're aware that your rib cage wants to move and compensate a lot, and you're not very in touch with your hips. Maybe you keep falling the same direction out of things over and over. You become aware of that, and then you just stay there and address that 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks, okay? I could add a kettlebell. I can turn this into a bro exercise. I can just get a pump, keep it really simple, keep working with it, but you get the theme. From the center, around in a circle, what do I have access to? What feels odd? Okay, here's another range. At this range, my foot and my arch is becoming a factor. I can feel that my foot's flattening and pronating. That's cool. It just shows me something is happening there. It's not a problem, it's just part of the stimulus. So if I were then working here, I can explore my options. How low can I go? How does my unique hip anatomy have to work? Can I shift? When I shift, how should I navigate that with my pelvis? Do I twist into it? Do I stay more square? Once again, grab a kettlebell, work through the standard squat progressions of front loading, which is easiest, or counterweight, and go to town. The counterweight situation might change depending on where you're working. In a classical bilateral squat, this kind of weight or this kind of weight is always easiest to learn to squat so that you can stay relatively upright, keep the weight balanced over your midfoot, understand the dynamics of the zone of apposition and keeping intra-abdominal pressure. When we reach up and behind, all of that gets harder. But there's different angles in this context, where let's go back to this angle again, where you know that in order to reach there, it helps to have a counterbalance this way. If I reach this way and I want to step that way, that's okay, but I can't step as far. As soon as I do this, now I can step further. So when you explore a counterbalance here, that's going to be a very different feeling in the tissues and the lines of connection that it loads compared to if I hold something here. The way my body is being pulled, stretched, the way lines of tension are being activated is completely different depending on how I'm counterbalancing and where I'm leaning. In any one of these positions, just apply progressive overload. Track what you've done in one session, track how it felt. Approach it again, do that enough times so that you can feel the changes occurring in your body and so that you can start to look into the subtleties of how certain parts are moving. So within this, if you stay in touch with the principles that we cover in the baseline guide of being balanced, surrendering the weight to your feet, allowing the legs to feel the load, not tensing up more than you need to perform the movement, stacking the ribs and pelvis to create stability around the spine, freeing up the rotation and expansion of the upper ribs to allow this without losing awareness of the midsection, expanding the shoulders, reaching away from the body, remaining regal, remaining long, using the connective tissue, the white tissue, as a long elastic silk to support the body. If you apply that and you think almost like ballet style movements, but with weight, then you can really create a very remodeling, lengthening, strengthening therapeutic stimulus in multiple directions and not end up feeling too grooved in the patterns that gym programs tend to get you into. The issue with the gym programs isn't the gym, it's not the equipment, it's not the ethos of let's go get a pump or get strong. It's purely that there isn't enough variability, and it's purely that people aren't curious enough about how they're moving. When you bring in that variability and the curiosity about how you're moving, and you explore all these different options, all of a sudden the gym becomes this fantastic tool, a playground of potential life experience rather than a constraining factor which is limiting your expression as a human. You just have to know yourself, be curious about yourself, and explore your edges. Think of this as a horizon. There's a philosopher, Hans-Georg Gadamer, and he talked about perception and knowledge as being like a horizon of experience. And in your life, you've had a certain amount of experiences which fill your horizon. And as you go through life, that horizon either expands or it becomes more enriched. What's inside the realm of experience becomes rich. Now we grow at the margins, at the periphery of our experience. When we push from confidence through comfort, through discomfort, through fear, and we explore how much we can undulate and pulsate in and out through that. When we meet something new, we're meeting it at the edge of our horizon and we're testing whether or not that's something that we can embrace within our sense of self, or whether it's something that we don't yet have the self-knowledge and the skill set to healthily interact with. And that applies to humans as well. You meet a new person, if there's like values, if there's a certain resonance, then you can expand and fuse your horizons. They have their own horizon and you can fuse the edges, and it becomes like a Venn diagram of understanding where you both get to share and connect in this middle space. Now, we can go for really rich, dense experiences within what we know, and we can keep looking deeper and deeper because there's layers always to unpack in something as simple as a squat, in something as simple as your garage gym. But we can also explore breadth, and that means getting outside of where you normally train. It means viewing movement in different ways. It means finding new ways to relate to people, practices, places in your body. And if you have a combination of breadth and depth in your practice, then you get to grow as a human and explore whether maybe you want to shift directions and try a new avenue of development, at the same time as just building up your raw capacity to make mistakes and expanding the comfort and confidence within your domain, which helps you to then go out beyond. So it's a constant process of deeper, return to center, wider, return to center, expand, explore whether I can keep this expansion, whether it's serving me, or whether I should regroup, regather. Like everything, the breath, like digestion, we go through periods of being more hungry and eating more and periods of eating less. The seasons, winter, all of these rhythms apply from within this idea. It's like I'm standing in the middle of the creative act book. This is my center point. I need to know my center. I need to know my options from wherever I am in life, and then I can explore those. I can be in reference to another person or another point when I do this, and then I can explore ways of relating, ways of speaking to them, ways of feeling my body, ways of understanding myself, different angles of view. I can lean into different parts of that connection. I can explore all of these depths and breadths within each line of exploration and around each point of contact. So ultimately, I flesh out my experience not just as a body with muscles, but as a human being with emotions, with memories, with creative impulses, and with relationships. So that's the summary. Stand in the center of the circle, trace the circle, explore the ranges, explore it at different levels, low, medium, high, both with this and with this. Explore counterbalancing. Find areas which feel foreign or uncomfortable for you and figure out how to make them feel confident, safe, and expressive. Let's say that's here. Okay, cool, this is a range that doesn't feel so good. Then I'm going to start to progressively spend more time here, get to know it, check in on my alignment cues, breathing, safety, balance, add some load, apply progressive overload, and then do something different either within that session or in the next session. Explore a different way of moving, and then start to realize that it's all very much connected, and that what I thought was my center was actually just one point of view, and all of life is a playground. So there you go. There's a bit of a rant on training the legs and becoming more whole. Hope it helped.